Hi, I'm Rob King, and this is Sullivan, co-programmer of Lenfest Kids. This February we're celebrating Black History Month with 3 films that explore African and African American culture across the past, the present, and even into the future. Our animated film is Kirikou and the Sorceress, which takes viewers into the mythic past of West African folktales. Our classic is The Learning Tree from 1969, which was the debut film of the director Gordon Parks and is based on his semi-autobiographical novel of growing up in the 1920s. And then finally, our live-action film is Ava DuVernay's 2018 A Wrinkle in Time, which showcases the influence of Afrofuturism in contemporary science fiction. We also have a Get Creative section with coloring pages and activities illustrating the principles of Black Lives Matter. And those have been generously shared with us by local school teacher Lelenia Garcia from her new book, What We Believe, a Black Lives Matter Principles Activity Book. Now, Sullivan, I mentioned Gordon Parks a moment ago. You've heard of Gordon Parks, right?
Yeah.
Did you know that his film, The Learning Tree, was the first ever major studio picture directed by a black filmmaker?
No, I did not.
Well, he made it for Warner Brothers. You know Warner Brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Warner Brothers, what other films did Warner Brothers make?
They've made a lot of Harry Potter movies, DC movies, Batman movies.
That's right. Warner Brothers does the Harry Potter films that many of you have seen, but it was also the studio where Gordon Parks made The Learning Tree. Now, just because this was the first major studio film by a black director, that doesn't mean, of course, that there weren't black filmmakers before that. I mean, far from it. There have been black filmmakers going back into the silent era. Filmmakers like Oscar Micheaux, for instance, who made 22 feature films in the silent era alone. But these were made for independent production companies. His own company was called Micheaux Pictures Corporation. But back to Gordon Parks. He doesn't make The Learning Tree until he's in his 50s, so getting on a bit. Most of his career, well, what do you know about his career?
Most of his career was photography.
Yes, that's right. Gordon Parks was primarily famous as a photographer. He was self-taught, actually, as a photographer, but extremely talented. And he was particularly well known for pictures of black city life around the middle of the 20th century in cities like Chicago, Washington, D.C., and here in New York City as well. His first important series of photos was of Ella Watson, who was a black cleaning lady in Washington, D.C., who earned just $1,000 a year and had to support her family on that. He recorded her life at home, in church, at work, and the like. In 1968, actually, he did something similar, making a photo series of an ordinary black family in Harlem, New York, which is where the Lenfest Center for the Arts is located. A series of photos featuring the Fontenelle family and showing the hardship in which they lived. Now, you've seen these photos, right?
Yes.
Well, what did you think of them?
I thought that they were they did represent the suffering of black culture and how they needed more.
Yeah, I mean, it does show a lot of the hardship of black families in the mid-20th century, but it also shows kind of everyday black culture in American cities. He also photographed some of the most famous black figures of the 20th century. Muhammad Ali, do you know who Muhammad Ali was?
No.
He was a famous boxer.
Oh.
Duke Ellington? He was a band leader. He was a jazz musician, and he also made photos of the Tuskegee Airmen. And that was the first unit of black fighter pilots in the American military. But it's really his photos of ordinary black life for which Gordon Parks is best known. And I think when we celebrate Black History Month, there's a lot that we can learn from Gordon Parks, because celebrating black history, it doesn't mean just celebrating what famous people have done, right? It means celebrating black culture more broadly and its contribution to American life. Well, I hope you enjoy the movies, and we'll see you next month. Take care. Bye.